Ever wondered how your phone is able to do so much? How it's able to do everything that it does in our modern day lives? Today, I'll go into detail about everything that makes up a computer. I've been using computers ever since I've been born, and it's something that's a part of our modern day lives. I've taken a few classes on them, and I find it a great hobby to do. Everybody today uses computers, whether they know it or not. Your computer might just be your fridge. It can be, well, your phone. That's pretty obvious. It can be your game console. Sometimes it can be a keyboard or a mouse. It just has to complete 4 points. Number one, it has to be able to take in an input. For this, it has analog joysticks, it has MIDI buttons, and it has triggers. It can also take in touchscreen inputs, being wherever you touch it on the screen. Its outputs would include sound and the display light. It's also got an LED here, which is considered an output. It gives off light. And it can also charge other things, being another output that it can get. It is able to process information. The information you give it, being data through the port or the buttons you touch or wherever you touch on the screen, can be processed and turned into an output, being the sound or the display. And then finally, storage. It has to be able to store information to be used once again or maybe currently. For this, it has a micro SD card and it also has an SSD inside it, a solid state drive. Computers are made up of their main components, being your central processing unit, your motherboard, your random access memory, your graphics processing unit, being GPU, your power supply, and your solid state drive or hard disk drive, whatever you have for storage. It will also need to be cooled, so that's another component. Your CPU or central processing unit is what does all of the thinking power of a computer. It is what takes in data, changes it, and gives an output. The motherboard is arguably the most important part of a computer. It is what holds everything together and what connects everything to everything. The random access memory, RAM, is what actually stores data for the CPU to change here shortly. It is incredibly fast and is able to hold a amount of information so that the CPU can access it almost instantaneously, change it, and give an output. The graphic processing unit, or the GPU, is like a CPU in that it processes data, but it specializes in repetitive tasks such as graphics in a video game. That's what it's primarily for. It can also be used for engineering software and CAD software alike, because those take up a lot of power in a computer. The power supply unit, or the PSU, is what gives power to everything in a computer. Without the power supply, it can't turn on because there's nothing to supply the power to the parts of the computer. The computer will also require some form of memory, that being solid state drives or hard disk drives, SSDs and HDDs. There are also older forms of memory, such as maybe VHS tapes or CDs, but for the most part, in today's modern computers, they use solid state drives. They're fast, they're easy to make, and they're everywhere. For cooling, depending on the computer, it can just cool just based on thermodynamics, being just air hitting the computer. But sometimes you'll actually have to cool it more if it's a larger computer. So you'll have different fans inside the case, or you will have a water cooler or other ways to add cooling so nothing melts. For the peripherals, you're going to have the case being a tower lap. Well, a case would actually be maybe a tower case and just your proper box. It can be the shell of a laptop, the shell of a phone. It could be in a game console. It could be in appliances. It could be the car, because a car is able to take inputs, process output, and all that stuff. Another peripheral you might have is a monitor. The monitors come in a few types, being LCD, OLED, and when computers originally started being the thing, being CRTs. LCDs, liquid crystal displays, these take crystals that are polarized and they actually spin it so it releases a different amount of light from the backlight. LCDs are required to have a backlight so that light is produced because the LCD panel itself just changes the color. An OLED monitor, being an LED, monitor just has a bunch of little LED diodes everywhere in the screen. So it produces its own light and it can be incredibly vibrant. Problem is, they're still extremely expensive to make because they're small LEDs. CRT, cathode ray tube computers, or cathode ray tube displays, are rather older and they're harder to maintain. Their color isn't that great and they can't have a great resolution. But for the old technology back then, it was wonderful. It did everything it needed to do and it was able to be produced. At the time, the technology for LCD or OLED displays just wasn't a thing. So, CRT it was. A keyboard is, well, keyboard. It has all the keys that you'll need to type on a computer. It's got your ASWD, your QWERTY, all of the letters that you need to type. It's got numbers, it's got function keys. It's just what actually types to the computer. Your mouse is something that's kind of new, kind of not in today's technology. When computers originally began, they only used the keyboard, so you would have to use arrow keys to manage the screen, or maybe just type and enter or the commands you wanted. But with a mouse, you can actually move a little pointer on the screen to select the things you wanted to. Cables, being your SATA, your PCIe, power, HDMI, USB, and audio, those are all required for a computer as well. You'll need SATA cables to exchange information around. Your power cable gives power to computer. Your HDMI will give a display signal to your screens, and your USB and audio ports will give sound and data to other devices. With all that, you get a computer. We know that a computer uses is four main parts, being your input, your processing, your storage, and your outputs. And now after that, can you identify everything around you that's a computer? You might be surprised. Your toaster might be a computer. Computers are everywhere. We use them every day. And that concludes my presentation.